A house can look honest from the street and still be hiding a long list of expensive truths. Fresh paint can cover tired trim. New carpet can hide uneven floors. A clean kitchen can distract from a damp basement. A pretty porch can pull the eye away from a door that never quite shuts. And a real estate listing can make almost any old house sound like it only needs a little love. But old handymen did not fall in love with houses from the curb. They inspected them with memory. In 1958, in a small town outside Peoria, Illinois, a father walked through a house his brother was thinking about buying. He did not carry a tablet. He did not speak like a salesman. He opened and closed the back door. He looked at the baseboards near the kitchen sink. He stood quietly in the basement and smelled the air. He watched how the floors felt under his boots. He looked at the windows, not because they were pretty, but because windows tell stories. He was not doing a professional inspection. He was doing something older. He was reading the house. That distinction matters. A qualified home inspector still matters, especially for structure, electrical, plumbing, gas, roofing, pests, and safety. But before many families paid for the formal step, they had an old father, uncle, carpenter, neighbor, or handyman walk through and notice the things ordinary excitement misses. They knew a house is not only a set of rooms, it is a record of water, heat, settling, shortcuts, maintenance, weather, and the people who lived there before. Number 21 shows why old handymen always tried the doors instead of only looking at them. Number 16 explains the basement clue that could change how a whole house felt. Number 9 is the small window habit that revealed years of neglect. And number 1 may be the oldest buying lesson of all. They watched whether the house had been cared for, not merely decorated. So here are 25 things old handymen checked in every house before buying it. Number 25, whether the front door closed cleanly. Old handymen often started with the door, not because the door was the biggest problem in a house, but because it was one of the easiest ways to feel how the house was behaving. A front door should swing, latch, and close without a fight. If it rubbed at the top, dragged at the bottom, needed a shoulder to shut, or left an uneven gap, the old-timer noticed. He did not immediately panic. Houses move, wood swells, hinges loosen, weather changes things. But he paid attention. A sticky door can be a small adjustment. It can also be a clue that frames have shifted, floors have settled, moisture has swelled the wood, or someone has been trimming and forcing the same problem for years. The old handyman used the door like a handshake. It told him whether the house felt square, neglected, damp, or carefully maintained. A house that had been loved often had doors that were adjusted, hinges that were snug, and latches that worked because someone had cared enough to fix little irritations before they became normal. That is what he was really checking, not perfection, care. Number 24, the gap around every exterior door. After trying the door, an old-timer looked at the light around it. He checked the sides, the threshold, the top corner, and the weather stripping. If daylight showed through in strange places, if the threshold was worn hollow, if the sweep was missing, or if cold air could be felt near the bottom, the house was already speaking. Exterior doors are where weather negotiates with the inside of the home. A bad door gap can mean drafts, water entry, insects, swollen flooring, worn thresholds, or years of poor adjustment. It can also mean the family inside got used to discomfort and stopped noticing it. Old handymen cared about that because small weather failures rarely stay small. Water near a threshold can creep under flooring. Drafts can make a room hard to heat or cool. A door that slams or rattles in wind can loosen hardware and damage the frame. The old habit was to look where the house meets the outside. Modern buyers often admire paint color, new locks, and porch decorations. The old handyman looked at the narrow line of daylight where money and comfort could leak out for years. Number 23. The floors near sinks, tubs, and toilets. Old handymen always looked down around water. Kitchen sinks, bathroom sinks, tubs, toilets, laundry areas, back doors where wet boots entered. Those were the places where floors told the truth. A soft spot near a toilet, a swollen edge beside a tub, stained flooring under a sink, a musty smell near a vanity, a little discoloration at the base of a cabinet. None of these had to mean disaster, but none of them were ignored. Water is patient. That is why old-timers respected it. They knew a house can forgive many things, but repeated moisture is not one of them. A small leak under a sink can rot the cabinet floor. A loose toilet can damage the subfloor. A tub that splashes for years can stain trim and soften walls. A laundry line that drips quietly can turn a corner into a problem. The old handyman did not need to tear anything apart. He simply looked for the places water had been allowed to visit too often. If those places were dry, firm, clean, and maintained, that told him something good. If they were swollen, stained, patched badly, or perfumed to hide an odor, that told him something else.
Number 22. Whether the windows opened and stayed open. A window that looks nice in a listing photo may still be a problem. Old handymen knew to operate windows. They lifted them, lowered them, checked whether they stuck, whether the sash cords were gone, whether the locks lined up, whether the frame was painted shut, and whether the window stayed open without a stick or prayer. This mattered because windows are daily machinery. They handle air, light, weather, moisture, and escape in emergencies. A house full of painted shut windows is not just inconvenient. It often means someone painted fast, ignored function, and treated the house as a picture instead of a working place. Old-timers noticed that attitude. A maintained window says somebody cared about more than appearances. They scraped carefully, painted thoughtfully, repaired cords, kept tracks clean, and did not seal the house's breathing parts shut. A neglected window can also hint at rot, swelling, poor repairs, old moisture, or years of deferred work. The old handyman did not judge a house by whether its windows were new. He judged whether they still worked. Number 21. Whether interior doors revealed settling. Interior doors tell quieter stories than front doors. Old handymen opened bedroom doors, closet doors, basement doors, and bathroom doors. They noticed whether one door swung open by itself, whether another would not latch, whether the top gap narrowed, whether the bottom scraped, or whether someone had shaved one side unevenly. Again, this did not automatically mean a major defect. Old houses settle. But patterns matter. One sticky door might be seasonal. 5 doors sticking in the same direction can suggest movement, humidity, poor workmanship, or shifting floors. A door with many old plane marks may reveal a problem people kept trimming instead of solving. This is why old handymen trusted use more than appearance. A room can be staged beautifully. A door either behaves or it does not. The hinge side, latch side, floor clearance, and swing all give small testimony. The old-timer was not trying to prove the house was bad. He was trying to understand what it had been doing for the last 50 years. Stop the count for a moment and notice something. The old handyman has barely entered the house, and already he has learned from doors, gaps, wet areas, windows, and swings. None of those checks required tearing into walls. They required slowing down. That was the old advantage. He did not let fresh paint hurry his eyes. He knew that houses confess in small ways before they confess in large ones. A rub mark, a water stain, a gap of light, a sticky sash, a door that will not latch, these are not random annoyances. They are the house asking to be read. Number 20. The smell of the basement. Old handymen trusted their nose in a basement. They did not walk downstairs talking the whole time. They paused. A basement can smell like cool concrete, old wood, stored boxes, laundry soap, paint cans, and ordinary age. But a sour damp smell, heavy mustiness, fuel odor, sewer odor, or sharp chemical cover-up was different. Smell is not a diagnosis by itself. But it is a warning. Old-timers knew basements collect the truth of a house. Water comes down. Moisture sits low. Poor ventilation reveals itself. Old leaks leave traces. Storage hides corners. If the basement felt damp in the nose, the handyman looked harder. He checked walls for staining. He looked at the floor edges. He noticed whether belongings were stored up on blocks. He noticed dehumidifiers, fresh paint over old masonry, and shelves pulled away from walls. The basement smell told him whether he was walking into ordinary age or a house that had been fighting water for years. That is why number 20 mattered. Before the eyes adjust, the nose often knows something. Number 19. The line where basement wall meets floor. Old handymen looked at the bottom of basement walls. That joint between wall and floor is where many wet basements leave their signature. Stains, white mineral deposits, peeling paint, damp edges, rusty shelving legs, raised storage, or a darker line near the floor could all suggest water had visited. Again, the point was not to play engineer. The point was to notice history. A dry basement after one sunny week does not prove it has always been dry. The old-timer looked for marks left by earlier seasons. Spring rain, melting snow, poor grading, clogged drains, or seepage may have come and gone many times. People trying to sell a house may clean the middle of the floor. They often forget the edges. That is where old handymen looked. They knew water usually leaves a line, a stain, a smell, a habit, or a workaround. If everything in the basement was stored 6 inches off the floor, that was also information. If cardboard boxes had water marks at the bottom, that was information too. The old rule was simple: do not only look at what is dry today. Look for signs of what gets wet when the weather changes. Number 18. Whether the yard sloped toward the house. Before old handymen blamed a basement, they looked outside. They checked the ground. A house should not have water encouraged toward its foundation. If the soil sloped inward, if a walkway tilted toward the wall, if flower beds were piled high against siding, or if low spots sat near the foundation, the old-timer noticed. He had seen this too many times. Water problems often begin outdoors before they become basement problems. Rain follows slope. Snowmelt follows slope. Gutters and downspouts can help, but the ground itself matters. This check was simple and powerful. Stand back and look. Where would water go? Old handymen did not need fancy language for drainage. They asked a plain question: if rain fell hard for an hour, would the house be protected or invited into the flow? Modern buyers often focus on landscaping as beauty. The old handyman looked at landscaping as behavior. A pretty bed that traps moisture against the house is not pretty to the foundation. Number 17. The condition of gutters and downspouts. Old homeowners knew gutters were not decoration. They were part of the house's water management. A handyman looking at a house checked whether gutters sagged, leaked, overflowed, or dumped water too close to the foundation. He looked for streaks on siding, washouts under downspouts, rotten fascia, and plants growing where water should be flowing. He did not need to climb or do anything unsafe to notice many of these clues. The house often showed them from the ground. A gutter that has been ignored can create a chain of trouble. Water spills over, fascia suffers, siding stains, soil erodes, basement walls get wetter, and the owner wonders why the house feels damp. Old handymen like simple systems that did their job. Collect water. Move water away. Keep wood dry. Do not let roof runoff punish the same corner for 10 years. That is why they looked at gutters even when the rest of the house looked clean. If the water system was neglected, the old-timer knew other maintenance might have been neglected too. Number 16. The attic smell and ventilation clues. Old handymen treated attics with caution and respect. They did not stomp around blindly or disturb old insulation. In older homes, attics can involve hazards that belong to professionals. But from safe access, they still paid attention to smell, heat, staining, airflow clues, and whether the space felt trapped or neglected. An attic can reveal roof leaks, poor ventilation, old animal entry, heat buildup, or years of storage hiding trouble. A musty smell overhead can matter as much as a damp smell below. The old-timer looked for stains around visible boards, dark marks near penetrations, daylight where it did not belong, blocked vents, and insulation shoved into places meant to breathe. He did not have to diagnose the whole system. He only needed to know whether the attic asked for a professional eye. This is where old wisdom was not reckless. It knew when to stop. A good handyman did not pretend every clue was his to solve during a showing. He noticed enough to ask better questions and bring in the right person before money changed hands. Number 15. The underside of sinks. Old handymen opened cabinets, especially under sinks. They looked for swollen cabinet floors, old towels left in place, water stains, soft particle board, loose traps, corroded fittings, buckets, air fresheners, and fresh contact paper hiding damage. The cabinet under a sink is often where small leaks go to be ignored. A seller may polish the faucet and clear the counter, but the old handyman wanted to see the dark little room underneath. That is where the truth lived. He might run a hand near the cabinet floor, not through anything dangerous, just enough to feel softness or dampness. He looked at the back wall. He noticed whether the drain area looked recently disturbed. He smelled for mildew. This check mattered because kitchen and bath leaks can stay small for a long time while still damaging wood, flooring, and walls. Old handymen knew that pretty faucets are easy. Dry cabinets are earned. Number 14. The condition of baseboards and lower trim. Lower trim tells on a house. Old handymen looked at baseboards, shoe molding, door casing near the floor, and trim behind furniture. They noticed swelling, gaps, water stains, chew marks, old caulk, fresh paint only near the bottom, or trim that had pulled away from the wall. Why lower trim? Because many house problems move downward or reveal themselves low. Water from mopping, leaks, wet shoes, pet damage, damp walls, per flooring repairs, and settling can all leave marks near the floor. Baseboards are also where rushed updates often look worst. New paint on old damaged trim can make a room look fresh from across the doorway and tired from 3 feet away. Old handymen liked trim because it showed the relationship between the house and the people in it. Did someone repair carefully? Or did they smear caulk, brush on paint, and hope no one bent down? The lower the clue, the more honest it often was. Number 13. Whether floors felt level and solid. Old handymen trusted their feet. They walked slowly through rooms and felt what the floor was saying. A little slope in an old house may be ordinary. A bouncy section, a soft spot, a sudden dip, a hump under carpet, or a floor that changes character near a bathroom or exterior wall deserved attention. The point was not to diagnose structure during a casual visit. The point was to notice what should be investigated. Old-timers knew floors carry history. Settling, old repairs, moisture, cut joists, poor additions, heavy appliances, and cheap remodels can all show up underfoot. Carpet can hide stains, but it cannot always hide softness. New flooring can cover old trouble, but the body still feels dips and ridges. This is why a handyman did not only look at rooms. He walked them. Modern buyers sometimes glide through a house emotionally, imagining furniture. The old handyman walked like he expected the floor to speak. Number 12. Fresh paint in only one suspicious place. Fresh paint can be honest. It can also be a distraction. Old handymen noticed when one basement wall was freshly painted and the others were not. One ceiling corner looked newly touched up. One patch behind a toilet was oddly bright. One closet smelled of fresh paint in an otherwise old room. That did not prove deception. But it raised a question. Why here? Sometimes the answer was innocent. A scuff was repaired. A small remodel was finished. A child had drawn on the wall. But old handymen had seen too many stains covered without causes fixed. Watermarks, smoke stains, mildew, and cracked plaster can all be hidden briefly by paint. The old habit was not cynicism. It was sequence. If paint appears after a problem, did anyone solve the problem first? A carefully maintained house may have touch-ups everywhere because the owner cared. A rushed house often has one bright patch where trouble used to be visible. The handyman looked for the difference. Number 11. How the house sounded. Old handymen listened. They listened to floors, doors, windows, pipes, fans, stairs, and the general quiet of the house. A house does not need to be silent. Old houses creak. Furnaces click. Plumbing makes ordinary sounds. But strange sounds mattered. A hollow slap under flooring. A door that rattled in its frame. A fan that scraped. A stair tread that cracked sharply. A pipe knock. A window that buzzed in wind. A loose piece of siding tapping outside. These sounds told the old-timer where maintenance had been postponed. Listening also slowed him down. A rushed buyer sees surfaces. A careful buyer hears function. This is one reason old handymen seemed calm in houses. They were not filling every room with talk. They were letting the house interrupt. Sometimes what you hear is not a deal breaker. It is simply the start of the next question. Stop again and look at the middle of the list. Basement smell. Basement edges. Yard slope. Gutters. Attic clues. Under sinks. Baseboards. Floors. Fresh paint. House sounds. These are not glamorous checks. But they all have one thing in common. They look past presentation and toward behavior. Old handymen knew a house behaves over time. It sheds water well or badly. It breathes well or badly. It settles quietly or complains. It gets maintained in hidden places or only polished where guests can see. That is why they were valuable during a buying decision. They were not trying to ruin anyone's excitement. They were trying to keep excitement from becoming blindness. Number 10. The quality of past repairs. Old handymen were not bothered by repairs. They were bothered by bad repairs. A house that has been lived in will have fixes. Hinges replaced. Trim patched. Cabinets adjusted. Steps repaired. Walls touched up. Shelves added. Screens mended. That is normal. The question is whether those repairs show care or panic. Old-timers looked at screw choices, crooked brackets, smeared caulk, mismatched trim, overpainted hardware, sloppy cuts, loose patches, and things held together by wishful thinking. Bad repairs revealed the standards of the house. One bad repair may be nothing. A pattern of them tells a story. If every small fix was done halfway, What happened to the repairs the buyer cannot see? The old handyman respected a humble repair done well. A simple patch, straight screw, clean bead, solid shim, or properly adjusted latch could make him feel better about the whole place. He was not looking for perfection. He was looking for honesty in the work. Number 9. Whether windows showed neglect at the sill. The sill is where windows confess. Old handyman looked there closely. Sun hits it. Rain finds it. Condensation sits on it. Plants spill onto it. Paint fails there first. Dust and dead insects collect in the corners. If a window has been neglected, the sill often shows it before the rest of the room does. A soft sill, peeling paint, dark stains, swollen wood, cracked glazing, or caulk piled over old trouble all mattered. The old-timer knew windows are part of the weather boundary. A pretty curtain does not make a window healthy. A new shade does not fix a bad sill. If the sill is tired, the house has been losing a small battle with moisture and sun. He also checked whether the outside sill shed water away or held it. That small angle can matter over years. Old houses are often saved or lost at their edges. The window sill is one of those edges. Number 8. The way additions met the original house. Old handymen paid special attention to additions. A back room added later. A porch enclosed. A garage converted. A bathroom squeezed into an old pantry. A sunroom attached to the side. These spaces can be wonderful, but they can also hide shortcuts. The old-timer looked where the new met the old. Floor height changes. Cracks at the joint. Odd roof lines. Doors that used to be exterior doors. Trim that suddenly changes quality. Rooms that feel colder, hotter, damper, or less solid than the rest of the house. An addition is a handshake between two building moments. Sometimes that handshake is firm. Sometimes it is awkward. Old handymen knew to notice the transition. Water often finds joints. Air leaks often live where old and new construction meet. Cheap work often shows itself in mismatched details. Again, this was not a final judgment. It was a reason to ask, who built it, when, with permits if required, and how well has it aged? Number 7. The garage and workshop condition. An old handyman learned a lot from the garage. Not because every buyer needs a perfect shop, but because the garage often reveals how the owner treated practical things. Were tools thrown everywhere? Were shelves sagging? Were paint cans unlabeled and rusting? Were extension cords damaged? Was the floor stained in ways nobody could explain? Were doors hard to close? Did water enter under the threshold? Was there safe, clear access, or was everything buried? A garage can be messy and still honest. Old-timers understood that. But a neglected garage sometimes points to neglected maintenance. If the homeowner did not care where water came in, where chemicals sat, where tools rusted, or whether the door sealed, the handyman wondered what else had been ignored. The garage also showed whether the house had a culture of repair. A well-used bench, sorted screws, labeled paint, and properly stored tools could be a good sign. It meant someone had been maintaining the home instead of only decorating it. Number 6. The age and labels of leftover paint and parts. Old handymen like useful leftovers. A labeled paint can with the room name and date. Extra floor tiles boxed neatly. Spare cabinet hinges. Matching trim scraps. A note about the porch color. A jar of correct screws for storm windows. These things told him the house had been maintained with memory. Unlabeled mystery cans told a different story. So did dried out paint, random parts with no purpose, broken fixtures saved for no reason, and leftovers dumped into a corner. The old-timer knew future repairs are easier when the past owner leaves clues. A house with labeled leftovers can be touched up, matched, and understood. A house with mystery leftovers makes every small repair harder. This check seems tiny, but it reveals household discipline. People who label things often notice things. People who keep the right spare part often expect the house to need care. That mindset mattered to old handymen because a maintained house is rarely maintained by accident. Number 5. Whether the house had been cleaned where nobody looks. Old handymen looked behind the easy shine. Closet corners. Basement shelves. Window tracks. Furnace rooms from a respectful distance. Cabinet bottoms. Tops of door trim. Under stairs. Behind laundry machines if visible. The edge of the garage. A house can be staged in the center and neglected at the margins. The old-timer knew margins tell the truth. Clean hidden places do not guarantee a perfect house, but they suggest a certain kind of owner. Someone who cleans window tracks may also notice leaks early. Someone who keeps the basement edges clear may notice water. Someone who labels boxes and keeps access open may maintain systems better. Neglected hidden places suggest the opposite. The old handyman did not expect museum cleanliness. He expected signs that the owner had a relationship with the whole house, not just the rooms visitors saw. That difference can matter more than a new countertop. Number 4. The way the house felt after 10 quiet minutes. Old handymen did not rush the walkthrough. They let the house settle around them. After 10 quiet minutes, details appear. A smell becomes noticeable. A room feels stuffy. A floor slope becomes clearer. Traffic noise enters through one wall. A window rattles. A draft touches the ankle. A basement feels heavier than it should. Excitement makes people move fast. Old handymen slowed them down. They knew first impressions are often decorative. Second impressions are practical. A house that looked charming at the doorway might feel damp after standing still. A bright room might feel hot. A beautiful old staircase might creak in a way that asked for repair. The habit was simple: stay long enough for the house to stop performing. Then pay attention to what remains. Number 3. The questions the seller could answer. Old handymen listened to people too. They asked simple questions. When was that repaired? Does the basement ever get water? Who did the addition? Why was this ceiling patched? Do the windows open? Where does that downspout drain? How old is that door? What paint is this? The answers mattered, but so did the confidence behind them. A careful owner often knew the house's history. They might not remember every date, but they knew what had been fixed, what still needed attention, and which quirks were normal. A vague answer to every practical question could mean the owner did not know the house, did not maintain it, or did not want to say. Old handymen respected honest flaws. They distrusted polished uncertainty. A house with known problems can be planned for. A house full of unknowns can become a wallet with no bottom. Number 2. Whether the house had one story or many excuses. Every old house has quirks. The question is whether those quirks make sense together. Old handymen listened for the story of the house. The back door sticks because that side gets afternoon sun. The basement got water once before the downspout was extended. The dining room floor slopes because of old settling that has not changed in years. The bathroom window was repaired after a leak, and here is the receipt. That kind of story may not be perfect, but it can be coherent. Then there is the other kind. Every stain has a different excuse. Every crack is nothing. Every fresh patch happened for no reason. Every smell is from yesterday. Every bad repair was done by someone else. Every question produces fog. Old handymen noticed when a house had too many excuses. They knew one problem could be manageable. A pattern of evasions was different. Number 2 is about judgment. Not fear. Judgment. Does the house's condition make sense, or does it feel like the truth is scattered under rugs, paint, perfume, and fast answers? Before number 1, remember this. Old handymen were not trying to find a flawless house. They knew flawless houses do not exist. They were trying to find a house whose problems were visible, understandable, and honestly maintained. That is a very different thing. A house can have age and still be good. A house can have repairs and still be trustworthy. A house can need work and still be worth buying. But a house that hides water, neglect, bad repairs, and vague history asks the buyer to pay for mysteries. Old handymen did not like paying for mysteries. Number 1. Whether the house had been cared for, not just updated. The greatest thing old handymen checked was not one door, one window, one basement wall, or one floor. It was the pattern of care. A house can be updated without being cared for. New paint, new fixtures, new flooring, new cabinet handles, new lights, new mulch, new photographs, new staging. All of that can make a house look ready. But care is different. Care shows in working windows, dry cabinet bottoms, clear gutters, labeled paint, sound trim, clean basement edges, doors that close, repairs that make sense, owners who know what happened and why. Old handymen looked for that deeper pattern because they understood what a house really is. It is not only lumber, plaster, glass, paint, and pipe. It is years of decisions. Every owner either leaves the house a little more understood or a little more confused. Think back to that father in Peoria in 1958. He is not trying to scare his brother away. He is not pretending to be an expert in every system. He is opening doors, smelling the basement, checking windowsills, looking under sinks, and standing quietly long enough for the house to speak. That was old Homecraft. Attention before excitement. Questions before romance. Evidence before promises. Care before decoration. Today, buyers have more tools, more listings, more photos, and more paperwork than ever. But the old habit still matters. Slow down and look at how the house has been treated. Because a house that has been cared for often keeps showing you small signs of care. And a house that has been neglected often keeps showing you small signs of neglect. The old handyman simply knew where to look. If this reminded you of a father, grandfather, uncle, neighbor, carpenter, or old family friend who walked through houses with sharp eyes, tell us what he always checked before trusting a place. Because sometimes the most valuable tool in a house showing was not a flashlight, ladder, or tape measure. It was an old pair of eyes that knew the difference between fresh and cared for.